But first, good evening, Democrats.
Good evening.
Yay!
Okay, before we put everybody on mute, let's try one more time. Everybody unmuted. All to unmute. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Yay!
Democrats!
Good evening! Yay!
One, we did it. Come
Congratulations
on.
to us.
Power to the people.
All right. Okay.
Power.
Now I'm muted. Everybody. Now you can all be quiet. Okay. So welcome. We're so glad to have everybody here. First meeting since the election is over. So first of all, I'm going to just take a moment to take a victory lap and talk about the fact that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the election with 306 electoral votes to 232, a beautiful number, the best number, a landslide by any imagination. And not only that, but it was a gigantic blowout in the popular vote, even bigger than 4 years ago. We flipped not only the 3 states that we lost last time, the focus 3 of the upper Midwest, Wisconsin, Michigan, and my home state of Pennsylvania, but we also added to the Democratic column Omaha, the 1 district in Nebraska, Arizona, and Georgia for the first time in decades. We elected as vice president the first woman, the first Asian American, the first Black woman, and the first California Democrat ever on a national ticket. We flipped 2 Senate seats in Arizona and Colorado. Okay, the western half of the country, we did our part, but we'll get to the rest of it later. We re-elected our own Ted Lieu. We re-elected our own Richard Bloom. We got George Gascon defeated Jackie Lacey for district attorney's race. We had a lot of success on some of our ballot measures. Yes on J, yes on SM and AB. We had a few successful state propositions, Prop 14, Prop 17, Prop 19, and then no on 20 and no on 23. Those were our successful ballot measure positions. And within Santa Monica, we also had a few extra wins within Santa Monica, not that this counts for anything. Prop 15, Prop 16, Prop 18, Prop 21, and no on 22 all went our way. That's a little consolation prize. Our judicial candidates, Steve Morgan and Scott Yang, got elected to the Superior Court. All of our candidates who we endorsed for Rent Control Board, College Board, and School Board got re-elected to their office, plus the addition of Jen Smith. We'll hear from them in just a moment. Our endorsed council candidate, Gleam Davis, got elected to City Council. And we have 3 new council members who sought our endorsement but didn't receive it, who are going to be elected as well. And some members of the club are thrilled. Others may be disappointed. I just wanted to say that I've spoken to all of the new council members, and I feel really optimistic about the opportunities that we have ahead for our city. We're going to have more discussion on that later in this meeting, but it's important to clarify that this is a space for all Santa Monicans, all Santa Monica Democrats, and this election has proven that there is a great diversity within that umbrella here in Santa Monica. And that's something that I want to explore more deeply in the months and years to come as part of the club. And that's going to involve, require the involvement of supporters of all the candidates who ran for city council this year. And I really look forward to having your support as we work out those issues and figure out how we can all work together. And certainly, before we go any further, I want to acknowledge the great service of Ana Maria Jara, Ted Winter, and Terry O'Day. As of the latest count, 44,200 votes were cast in the presidential race in Santa Monica, 83% for Joe Biden and 16% for Trump. So we're still counting, we're still getting the final numbers, but that appears to be a net increase over 2016 when we were 80% for Hillary. Now we're 83% for Biden. So we rejected Trump by 3% more. A couple of additional regional results I just wanted to mention. These are not endorsements by the club, but I just have to mention them. Holly Mitchell was elected to the Board of Supervisors. We now have an all-woman Board of Supervisors here in LA County. The progressive challenger, Nithya Raman, won a seat to LA City Council. Friend of the club, Seppi Shine, won in West Hollywood. And along with John Erickson, they took out 2 longtime incumbents in West Hollywood. Another friend of the club, Sasha Renee Perez, who was here with us for our convention events, she won her city council race in Alhambra, taking out a police officer, and she's now going to become the mayor next month. She'll be the youngest mayor in the history of the city. And on a statewide note, we can't forget that we also picked up 2 additional seats in the state Senate in Orange County. So we won back Josh Newman's race, and we also picked up another seat with David Min. So now let's see, is Jane here? Not sure if I see.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there she is. Okay, so now we want to throw over to the chair of the West Side Democratic headquarters to go over some more of our efforts with the HQ. Please welcome Jane Wishon.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for welcoming me. I'm also a member of the club, so I just don't, because I'm in several clubs, I don't always make it to the meetings, but thank you. Thank you, John, for all the work that you've done since we've all come together in this West Side Democratic headquarters. It's kind of an unusual group. We're 10 Democratic clubs who've come together, not just to do this great work about getting Democrats elected, but we share all kinds of information. When somebody's seeking endorsement, somebody else needs that information. We're sharing back and forth. We're sharing best practices. We're all learning from one another. It's really kind of an amazing collaboration of clubs, and I'm thrilled that we're going to continue forward with it, not just around election work, but around helping one another, because, you know, we are kind of all in this together, and the more we can support one another, the better we all will be. So John and the Santa Monica Dem Club and Dami were definitely pivotal parts of the West Side Democratic headquarters. We did quite a bit of work in 2018, as you'll recall, to get those the congressional seats that we flipped. And so we stayed together, and we've been making calls all through 2019 and 2020. We were sending out canvassers as long as we could send out canvassers before COVID hit. And we're now doing ballot curing. Somebody was talking about Christy Smith a few minutes ago. She still has the chance to win. We still think she's going to win, but what we're doing is we're sending out people to the district to do safe door knocking to help cure ballots, because there are more Democratic ballots outstanding than she is behind in the count. So if you're able to do that, when I'm done talking, I'll drop some links in the chat, or if you're on our West Side Democratic HQ emails, then you're seeing those links. If you're able to do that, that's great. At this point, calling these voters, none of them are picking up the phone, so we really do have to go out and knock doors to reach them. All told, West Side Democratic headquarters, we did about 7,500 shifts in the last year and a half. We've dialed close to 3 million voters. A lot of those dials were into battleground states. We did heavy calling into Wisconsin, into Pennsylvania, into Georgia, yes, into Florida, which we didn't quite get there yet. But we did a lot of calling into those battleground states in support of Biden. And then, of course, in many cases in support of the Senate candidates as well. We knocked on over 7,000 doors. Our volunteers sent close to 2 million texts, and we sent out over 100,000 postcards. But all of the groups across the state, and in fact, across the country, were doing similar work. Yes, California accounted for 40% of all the calls made in the weeks leading up to the election to those battleground states. But we know this time it was only 40%. In the past, it's been as many as 50%. So that means Democrats are waking up in other parts of the country. I think that's really good news for all of us. I know that we did lose a couple of the congressional seats we picked up in 2018. And I found something on Twitter, actually, that helped me feel a little better about all this. It's written by someone from not in the United States, talking about how proud they are of Americans for removing a dictator during a dictatorship is nearly impossible. Typically, it takes civil war or death power vacuum. And then says, the narrative of a close race omits that one team had skates on a downhill road and the other had an obstacle course littered with dirty needles, fences to break through, barbed wire to crawl under, and rabid dogs blocking the way. And that really resonates for me because I look at how close the Electoral College is, and I think, do really that many Americans not get it? But then I recall all that work that's happening in Georgia right now, trying to get people re-registered who were rolled off of lists, all the important work of, because the Republicans, say in Texas, only had one ballot drop box per county and tried to disallow 125,000 votes out of the Houston area. So our work's still cut out for us, but we made tremendous progress. And thank God we got rid of that guy in the White House. He's going to go kicking and screaming, I think. Probably Secret Service is going to have to throw him over his shoulder and take him out in January. But we have hope, and we're going to be doing a lot of work for Georgia. I'll drop some links in the chat for that too, if you're able to help. We would love to have your help.
Thanks so much, Jane. It's been such an honor to work with you. And by the way, for those who don't know, this past weekend, Jane was just honored by the LA County Democratic Party as their Volunteer of the Year. And that's not just like Democrat of the Year, like I was just for, the West Side. This was for the entire county. Jane was honored as Democrat of the Year, as Volunteer of the Year. And her efforts here at the headquarters was just part of what she was being recognized for there. So our hat as a club, our collective hat is off to you for all the great work you've done. And we're living with the results right now. So thank you so much, Jane. Then before we move on to our local candidates, I just have to mention before we go away from talking about the volunteer work, two people who I know are here who I think were the two biggest all-star volunteers from this club, and that is John Medlin and Daniel Whitland, who were both absolutely great volunteers who've been with us since the beginning. They came there when we were in the old headquarters in Westwood, when we were back at Sue and Mike's house doing the phone banking every single week. They continued going on when we went virtual. And by the end, you saw Daniel there as one of the leaders helping us train new phone bankers. So, I mean, the two of you just deserve the top prize as far as I'm concerned. As far as Santa Monica Democrats are concerned, you guys get to be the Volunteer of the Year. Okay, with that said, we want to bring in our local candidate winners. We're excited to have a mix of new and old winners here today. Some of them are addressing the membership for the first time. And so we're going to go in order of the last vote count. So right now we're going to start with Mr. Oscar De La Torre. So Oscar, welcome. We're going to go 1 minute each. So Oscar, welcome to the club.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure, John, to be here tonight. And thank you all very much for your involvement. It's inspiring to hear all the volunteer work that was put into this last election to elect Democrats. I want to thank Terry O'Day and Ted Winter and Anahara for their service to the city council and to the city. And I'm honored to have the endorsement of the Santa Monica Democratic Club for my 5 previous elections to the school board. And so I'm concluding 18 years of service on the school board. And I look forward to working with Gleam Davis and Christine Parra and Phil Brock and Kevin McCowan, Sue Hemmelrich, and Kristin Mccowan, who's my neighbor, who's actually right across the way. So very exciting times for the city, a lot of challenges. I look forward to getting more involved with this club because we're going to need all of us, the Santa Monicans, coming together to solve the problems that we have that we want to, address in our city. And so I hope that you all can reach out to me. I'd love to meet every one of you. And, I look forward to just getting your advice and your guidance, as we move forward on addressing the enormous challenges that our city faces. And so thank you all very much, and God bless your work, and looking forward, to making a positive contribution to our quality of life here in Santa Monica. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. And now let's go to Christine Parra.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today at the club. I'm really humbled and excited to serve our beautiful city of Santa Monica and look forward to working collaboratively, not only with my fellow council members, but also with city staff and the community that I will serve. Once sworn into office, my main priority is going to be to learn as much as I can about how our city operates so that I can immediately get to work with staff on how we can improve our safety and financial solvency with the utmost transparency. And just want to let you know that I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work, and really excited for the opportunity. I also, like Oscar said, am looking forward to meeting as many of you as I possibly can. And I look to you for support in the future because, like Oscar said as well, there are quite a few challenges that are facing our city, and just really excited to be a part of solutions and all the opportunities as well. So my thanks again for having me today.
Thank you so much, Christine, and I'm sure it won't be the last time. Now let's go to Gleam Davis.
Well, hi, everybody. It's all good to see you all again. First of all, I really want to thank the club for your endorsement during this election cycle. It meant a lot to me. I prominently featured it on my literature. I'm a lifelong Democrat, and so the endorsement of my local Democratic club just means the world. And obviously, I'm so appreciative of all the work that everyone in this club did for Democrats up and down the ticket. As everyone's indicated, we have some challenges ahead here in Santa Monica. Those are the same kind of challenges that a lot of other municipalities are facing. And one of the reasons those challenges are so stark is because what's been happening in Washington, D.C. has ignored what is happening here at the local level. So I look forward to working with Oscar and Phil and Christine and Kristin, as well as Kevin and Sue, and making sure that as we go forward, Santa Monica is a place where each person can thrive to the best of their ability. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you to lobby our state and our federal government to make sure we have the resources for a fair and just economic recovery so that as we move forward economically, no person gets left behind. So thanks for all the work you've done. It's great to see you all. And of course, I will continue to work with each and every one of you in the coming years. Thanks again for all your support.
Thank you, Gleam. Now let's hear from Phil Brock.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm in the middle of 2 Zoom meetings, so it's sort of interesting. I've got screens going all over the place. Good evening, and yes, no, I did not get bit by a losing candidate. I had, unfortunately, skin cancer surgery last Thursday, and I go in for repair surgery tomorrow. So it's interesting. You get the high of getting so much confidence from so many of your fellow residents, and then the next week you're brought back to earth by an injury. that's how life normally goes. So first, I look forward to working with all of you in the future. And I am also, as Gleam said, a lifelong Democrat. And I look forward to working with Gleam and Kevin and Sue and, of course, Oscar and Christine and whoever I just missed right now because I'm looking at two screens. But I want you to know that I look forward to hearing from you, whether you voted for me or not. I would love your advice, your counsel, and guidance going forward. So my email is phil.brock@smgov.net. And if you give me your phone number, I'll be glad to call and have a conversation with you. I'm planning on monthly town halls, and I'm also planning on using my one of my monikers for Walk a Brock with Phil and having monthly walks around the city as well once COVID has eased and we put it behind us. So I just want you to know I'm open to working with all of you, and I appreciate all of you because I know that you all have tremendous love for this place, this community, this quilt that we call home in Santa Monica. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil. And now we're going to hear from Jen Smith, our new school board member.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you all for the dedication to the process of making democracy work and the Democratic Party ideology. Thank you for endorsing my candidacy and all the support you gave me. It was really incredible. It's been an incredible process, and it was a really amazing learning experience that I'm so grateful for. I was so impressed by the commitment of so many and the professionalism of the forums and the interviews and what this club brings to the community. It's quite impressive. So thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to working closely with our school community and putting this pandemic behind us and getting our kids back in school and keeping the district strong and resilient with all the challenges we face ahead too. So I'll be sworn in on December 17th at my first school board meeting. And I really am looking forward to working with all of you on a lot of different kinds of projects and just being part of this community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jen. And now let's go to Maria Leon Vasquez.
Well, good evening, everybody, and I'm glad to be back. And thank you all for your support. What ended up being an election time where it was kind of getting there, kind of negative. I'm glad for the support of for the Democratic, club that really came in at an appropriate time and understood the support and the knowledge that I think that as an incumbent of 20 years will bring to the table. And, part of that will be that we get to bring in Jen, which I'm glad we're going to have somebody new. And then we have somebody new that's going to come to the board and that we're going to be appointing in January, which I think would be great. It's finally we're going to have a good working, I think, school board finally that's going to move us forward. So that I look forward to, again, opening the schools and knowing what that means. We're still looking at all possibilities of that so that kids will get a good run. I mean, it's been rough since March till now, but I think we look forward to a good times. I'm positive that we're going to move forward and it's going to be positive for all our kids, especially for a lot of our kids, our more diverse kids that are kind of lost out a little bit, but I think we're here to support. I look forward to, bringing in our 7th member in January that will hopefully carry us through with this. So thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. And all the great work that we do, as a regional Democratic clubs everywhere. Thank you all so much. Because I think we showed them what California can do. And that's my positive, that we showed them and we're going to do so much more. And locally, we're all going to hopefully heal and move forward as Democrats. So
For sure. Thanks, Maria. And now let's hear from John Keene.
Thank you, John Katz, and thank you, all you rowdy Democrats. I have to tell you, but it was really hard to celebrate Wednesday morning because there was so much uncertainty. And like right now, I kind of finally feel like we can exhale a little bit, and we still got Georgia to try to get done, but it's like we accomplished a lot, and I thank so many people in this room for just, you guys have no idea how much it means when you send an email or a phone call and just check in. Campaigning is lonely. I love the work. I love working as a school board member, but campaigning is lonely. So thank you all for your help with that. I just want to say that going through this campaign, it just really reaffirms what we're about, what we're doing. We're about making things, we're about servant leadership. We're about making opportunities better for everybody, all of us, whether we're elected or whether we're volunteers, whatever we do. And I just appreciate the friendships that I've made through Zoom. Like, I feel like I know you people, even though we've never met in person. So many of you, we've only met through the Brady Bunch squares. But I thank Jen for running and joining our board. Maria, I enjoy your expertise and experience you bring. I look forward to 4 more years. And I just want to say goodbye to my colleague, Oscar. Oscar is a really talented guy. I was going to say he was the youngest on the board. So, we always feel like, like a little brother, but a really talented guy. And I'm so excited for this opportunity that he has. I think he needed a bigger goldfish bowl. And I think the city council is going to give him a chance to show us what he's about. And I just really, I'm excited for these opportunities, and I'm excited to bring somebody new to the board. Going through and appointing somebody. So anyway, I'm just excited for our city. I'm excited for our country, and let's just get these 2 damn Senate seats and just get some sanity back. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, John. And is Anastasia here? I don't see her on the list. If not, we'll go to Carolyn next, and she can speak on their behalf.
Sure. Well, we ran together, so I guess I'll
Hey.
speak. Good evening. It's so great to see all of you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your endorsement. This was my 2nd term that I was running for, and thanks for your 2nd endorsement. It really made the difference in talking to voters who were confused about what to do, especially for these down ballot races, really important. So I just want to say, in my next term, I'm a fierce renters' rights champion, and I'm really committed to making sure that we protect Santa Monica from this potential impending demolition derby, and also potential eviction cliff, and the possibility of homes being turned over and redeveloped. So I really want to make sure that we're able to keep all of our tenants in place, especially during this precarious economic time. And also work harder to reduce tenant harassment as the pressures rise to really see long-term tenants out of the units so that the landlords can turn a profit. So I'm here for you, whatever you need, landlord, tenant, come to me. I also just want to say, as a Democrat, I'm really proud that this is my home club. I think many of you know I actually serve on the platform committee for the state's party, and I'm an elected delegate to the party. Along with John and Isabel and so many others here. And we are running again to represent Santa Monica in Sacramento and with our party. So yes, 1 election's over and another one's coming right up. And the great thing is that all of you get to vote exclusively by mail. And you can register to get a ballot if you'd like to vote in this election at adem.cadem.org, and John will put it in the chat for you. But I just want to say, we don't just work, in Santa Monica. We work at a state level to advance Santa Monica values statewide. And I'm just so proud that I've gotten to know each of you. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And I know that Anastasia feels the same. She's also an elected delegate, and being part of this club and our party and being involved is really important to her and I. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolyn. And now let's go to the next highest vote getter in the city, which is Rob Greenstein Raider. Rob?
Hello.
There he is. There he is.
I'm having a Phil Brock issue, which is that I have a parents Zoom meeting at my kid's school going on at the same time, but I've really enjoyed hearing the great stories from everybody. And much like everyone else, as a lifelong Democrat and as someone who's been endorsed by this club 4 times, there's nothing like having your hometown Democratic club endorse you and be willing to stand up for you. And it meant a lot to me this time. I've worked on 2 national campaigns. I was paid staff for Dukakis. I was paid staff for Clinton in '96 and did advance work. But as I think it was John said earlier, it's lonely to run. And it's wonderful to have allies and friends at this, my home Senate, my home Democratic club. And it meant a lot. And the values that we have been a shining light in the state of California as well as nationally. And I'm really proud of what we do here in Santa Monica. Santa Monica College continues to be #1 in transfers to the UC system, #1 in community engagement. It really is a jewel of our local community. And to be reelected, to continue instilling Santa Monica values at our community college, at Santa Monica College, is something I want to be remembered for the rest of my life. And I'm appreciative that this club helped me to continue that sort of service. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And do we have Margaret here? Don't see her. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to Susan Amanov.
Hello, everyone. And once again, thank you so much for your support. It does mean a lot to get the support of your hometown Democratic club, especially when, like the others, I am a lifelong Democrat. So this has been an interesting year at the college. And as Rob mentioned, we're looking forward to a time, perhaps next fall, when we can be back on campus. We have talented senior staff and our talented president helping us to move forward and get there. But I'm a true college faculty member, and as such, there's a pop quiz. And if you want to participate, just unmute yourself and tell me when Santa Monica College first opens its door. What year did Santa Monica College open its doors?
What year did Santa Monica College open its doors?
Anybody want to try?
Anyone know?
1931.
Close.
1929.
1929, exactly. It opened its doors. You knew that, Patricia? Opened its doors 1929 at the high school to 153 students. And now we have 25,000 on our 40-acre campus and 5 satellite campuses, and so much support from the community that it's truly a community college. And once again, thank you all.
Thank you, Susan. And now the top vote getter in the city, Kristin Mccowan.
Okay.
John, I thought I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm just kidding.
We went in vote order. So, we usually say, last but not least. This was last but most.
Well, we all know why. So
Right.
Not over, thank you all so much for your support. As a lifelong Democrat, there are a lot of things that this meant to me personally that, I'm forever grateful for. I never thought I'd even see my name on a ballot and get to be supported by my local Democratic club and get to serve this city. And I was just talking to Albert about this, this is all, I have no political ambition. I am excited to serve Santa Monica, and that's what I intend to do for as long as I'm able to do it. And that's it for me. And I'm going to raise my kids, and I'm committed to this town the same way I was, and the same way my dad was, and I'm just so grateful. And I hate COVID. I hate that this is the environment that some of us have had to get to know one another in, because I kind of want to just hug so many of you that I didn't know as well before, or didn't know at all before. And, some of you that I've known since I was, just a little girl. I can't wait until we can do all of our good work for this city in normal circumstances. But I am grateful for all the Democrats. I want to congratulate all the new electeds. Jen Smith for school board, congratulations. I've heard such great things. Oscar, Christine, and Phil. So I literally, when Albert and I step outside to go back downstairs, I can wave at Oscar. I know exactly where he's sitting right now. And so I'm looking forward to working together. Christine, I've gotten to know briefly, and I very much enjoy her. And I think that we're going to get along famously. And I love everything that you said. And Phil is, well, who doesn't love Phil Brock? So, hey, Phil, it's going to be fun, a fun ride for everyone. And I think, I think this is the most native Santa Monicans possibly, right? Like on council at one time, I don't know. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see what we're able to do during these difficult times to bring the most services to our community. And I really want to take one moment to thank Terry, who I adore, and Ted, who I adore, and Anna. Three people that I consider very genuine, who had the most respect for this city, very ethical, decent human beings that I loved knowing, getting to know better in this capacity on council. And I look forward to the activism they'll be able to do in this new chapter. So thanks all. And everybody else that got reelected, congratulations. John, Susan, Margaret, Rob, congratulations.
Thank you, Kristin. And I just saw that Margaret Quinones Perez just came in. Margaret, do you want to take a minute to say hello?
I just got on right now. I've been trying so hard. Hello. Let me get my words together. I've been trying for the last 20 minutes to get logged on. I just want to say congratulations to people who won. And I'm sorry for the people that lost, because I know they had their heart in it. I know they did. To be in public office is, it's a gift, but it's also a curse. And that means that everything you say and do is out for public preview. And people get to judge it any way they want. And the hardest part about being in public office is that you go everywhere and people know who you are, but you don't know who they are. So you have to learn to be patient and listen. I've been in public office now 28 years. And I feel very, very blessed. And I'm very proud to represent my area of the city of Santa Monica, Malibu. But what I'm most proudest of is being a Chicana Latina in this city. Because everybody can talk about progressive and Democrat and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, we got to look in the mirror and we have to remember who we are, where we came from, and who's important. And I just hope this next time that we go around with a new set of leaders, and as we say goodbye to our old leaders, it ain't going to be easy, folks. But you're going to have to, just like I am, summons the most decency and civility that we've ever had. But Joe Biden won, and we have Dr. Biden, and that makes me feel good. That's it.
Thank you, Margaret. And guess what? We have our last elected just in under the wire from Santa Monica, our other rent control board winner, Anastasia Foster. Anastasia, thanks for joining us.
Hi, good evening. Forgive me, my child had a science club Zoom event with the California Science Center and then wanted his mom to cook dinner. So I apologize for being late. But after a busy election season, he deserves my attention. Thank you all, everybody at the Santa Monica Democratic Club, for your support again this cycle. Carolyn and I were thrilled to have your endorsement last time, and we hope we didn't let you down. I've been thrilled to be able to come and speak to the club on so many different topics, mostly centered around housing and everything from local to state. And during our campaign, Carolyn and I promised you that we would work not only locally, but regionally and up and down the state to bring Santa Monicans a real sense of what's really going on in the housing world, and to bring to the housing world a real sense of what's going on in Santa Monica, because every one of your and your neighbors' individual lives matters, and what happens to everybody matters in the aggregate and in the whole. And it's been a real pleasure these last 4 years to serve you in that way. And I hope you know that we are always here to listen. We are always here to speak to you personally if you have any questions or concerns about your housing or how it relates to the community. And as always, you can bring anything to us. And thank you so much for your support, and looking forward to the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thanks, Anastasia. So that wraps up our local Santa Monica winners. And now it's time to introduce another local winner. Before I do, I want to make reference of the mayor reminded me that today, Mayor McCowan reminded me that today would have been the former mayor Ken Genser's 70th birthday. And I know I don't see Parra back here, but I know that she mentioned she reached out earlier. You know, that he was a great mayor, and she was a great member of our club, and we're thinking of Ken as well today. As we're talking about past mayors of the city, let's welcome in our next speaker, Assembly Member Richard Bloom, who won over 80% in his re-election this year, coming to us from his office in Santa Monica, or what I like to call the Hawaii of California. Richard Bloom.
That's right, folks. I'm right here in Santa Monica, and don't forget it. We've unfortunately, that news, both from Sacramento, in terms of the dinner the governor made the mistake of attending, and my colleagues who chose to take on a junket that, by the way, is partially paid for by oil companies. It makes us all look bad. Not just, it makes you guys look bad for all the electeds who are here with us this evening. It just it feeds into that narrative about elected officials that is very negative. So it's very unfortunate that that's what's in the news right now. You brought a tear to my eye, John, by bringing up my good friend and my mentor in politics, Ken Genser. Ken was one of the great Santa Monicans, and I was very honored and proud to be able to serve with him for many years. I came on the Zoom just as Kristin was listing everybody who she wanted to congratulate. I don't know how many of you are on the Zoom and how many of you are not. So congratulations to all of our local electeds. A lot of transition this year. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. We're grateful and really should be grateful for the service of all of you who are working to make Santa Monica a better community and a bright light of progressivism that is still to this day across the state something that people talk about. Up in Sacramento, Santa Monica is one of those towns that people point to from a progressive perspective and say, these guys are doing it right and we should copy some of the things that that they're doing. There are a lot of people in Sacramento who are jealous about my assembly district, and it's Santa Monica is the #1 reason why they're jealous. So let's make sure that we're always working to increase that level of jealousy. It's a good thing. This has been a crazy, crazy year. You all know that. It's been a crazy 4 years that thank God is finally, we think, coming to an end. We've just never lived through anything like this and never imagined that we would have somebody in the White House who would debase the United States the way he has. We're starting to turn the corner. We can't let up. And I know I'm speaking to Democrats here, but I'm not just speaking to any Democrats. I'm speaking to Democrats. And John, thank you for everything you do and that the club does. You're willing to put your shoulder into this and keep moving things forward. The election of a new president only gets us partway there. We have a challenge in Georgia to pick up 2 senators. We need to keep California progressive. We need to make sure that state houses are turning blue. There's a lot of work ahead of us, and we should think of this as the beginning, not anywhere near an endpoint. So thank you for all the work that you're doing and that you will do in the future. I'm here with you, and together we'll get a lot done. And again, congratulations to, particularly in the city council, to our new council members. Remember, if this old hand, I'm an old hand now at this, like Margaret. She and I have been doing this for a long time now. Our system is an iterative process. We are constantly doing things to try and make things better for our city, and let's keep the focus there. I should let you know that today I found out that our bill package is probably going to be cut in half, or not, if not less than in half. So we're going to have fewer bills for each member to carry. That's going to make each one of them all the more important. You can be sure that I'll be carrying housing legislation again, as I have every year, focusing on affordable and housing and affordability of our housing stock. I'm going to try and focus more on homelessness in the coming year, an issue that has plagued us now for the entirety of time that I have been in elected office. And I just, hope that we'll be able to make a difference and turn things around for the many people who suffer from homelessness in our community. There's a lot of other things I could be talking about, but you've got other things on your agenda. So I'm just going to say thank you again, and look forward to seeing you all out in the real world.
Thank you so much, Richard. We look forward to seeing what comes up with you in the legislature this next 2 years.
It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you so much. So now we're going to switch gears to our main program for this evening. And I just want to say in advance that we have a couple of things to announce at the end of the meeting. So don't go anywhere when we wrap up this part, but we want to make sure we have time for our speakers this evening who are here. So let me introduce the 3 speakers, and then after we do that, we'll let each of them start answering some of our questions. So first, let me introduce the panel. Assembly member Sydney Kamlager has represented the 54th Assembly District since 2018, encompassing Baldwin Hills, Crenshaw, Culver City, Mar Vista, Westwood, and so many parts of LA. She's been a strong advocate for equity, access, and justice in the California State Assembly. She serves on the committees for public safety, police reform, penal code revision, and the all-important Rules Committee. As chair of the Select Committee on Incarcerated Women, Kamlager is focused on reviewing and reforming policies to support the health, dignity, and rehabilitation of women in prison. She's also been committed to advocating for environmental justice, funding for the arts, and equity in our education system. Welcome, Assembly Member. And good to see you. And then next up, we have Kristin Pelosi, an activist and public interest attorney who serves as a member of the DNC and also chairs the California Democratic Party Women's Caucus. She served as the HUD Special Counsel in the Clinton administration and served as a chief of staff on Capitol Hill. She's been active within the party on behalf of veterans and military families, the fight for 15, gun violence prevention, women's equality, and of course, she also happens to have a pretty cool mom. Please welcome Kristin Pelosi. Okay, and finally, Taisha Brown began as a labor activist and organizer within her SEIU local. She then built up the Martin Luther King Democratic Club into one of the preeminent clubs in San Diego and became the vice chair of the San Diego County Democratic Party. Taisha made history last year as she led a slate of 4 Black women to lead the California Democratic Party African American Caucus, which has now been renamed the Black Caucus. Taisha is the 3rd woman ever and the first one in over 20 years to chair this caucus. So please welcome Taisha Brown. And so now we've introduced all of our guests, and I would just want to start by asking each of our panelists this kind of big picture question. So Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won with the biggest popular vote margin since 2008. They defeated an incumbent president for the first time since 1992, but the margins were maybe not as optimistic as we thought heading into the final weeks of the election, and we fell short in a couple of Senate races and even lost some ground in the House. So my question is, how do we interpret these election results? What do you think the electorate came out to tell us this year?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I don't know why my picture won't show, so I do apologize for that. But I want to say thank you to all of you for having me this evening, and congratulations to all the people that won in their races and for being courageous enough to step up and run. It does take over your whole entire life, so thank you. I think what really is important about this election is that more people turned out than ever. Our base was really ready to get out and make sure Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won. And they did just that. And that we can't forget that the 46 minus 1, that's what I call the president. He planted the seed in a lot of people's heads to give doubt ahead of time so people would stay home, but they didn't. They got out, they seen the need for it, and here we are now. Hopefully on January 20th, everything will go peacefully and we will have a new president and a new vice president that will change the country. And that means we really have to fight hard for Georgia. All of us. It's not over until we win Georgia, and then we can celebrate.
Totally. Anybody else?
So I want to thank you all for the invitation, and I want to also congratulate all of the winners of the local elections in Santa Monica, and just want to give a shout out to my hair soul sister, Kristin Mccowan. I feel like we're both rocking the big natural. And Gleam, who I know and is a personal friend. But congratulations to all of you all. I think to reiterate what Taisha said, it's important that we remain positive about the gains that we made. A lot of people are focusing on chaotic president and his sort of petulance around leaving. And I think that's what he wants us to focus on. But we need to remain positive about the gains that we have made and about the opportunities that are in front of us. We have a major opportunity in front of us in terms of garnering those 2 seats in Georgia, and those Senate wins will be critical for the Biden-Harris administration to be able to construct a cabinet that we as Democrats can be proud of. If he is not able to get the kinds of folks, if he doesn't get those seats, then it will be much harder to get a cabinet that's confirmed that is as representational as we are as Democrats. So that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity. The other thing that's important to remind ourselves is that we still hold the majority in the House. And under the leadership of Speaker Pelosi, we will have a partner in the White House as it relates to being able to draw down on federal resources. And as Mr. Bloom can attest, we have had a doozy of a time trying to get money into California, especially this year as a result of COVID and the struggling economy. And we are the 5th largest economy in the world, and we cannot afford to continue the kind of suffering that we have had to manage through economically. But those are very positive things. So I think it's important. Democrats like to kvetch. I think it's okay to do that a little bit, but I think it's also important to remain positive about the strides that we have been able to make so that we can recalibrate our strategies and make sure that we win the Senate in Georgia.
Thank you. And Christine, would you like to weigh in?
Sure. First of all, thank you. Nice to see you again. It's nice to see some friends on the Zoom. And it seems like, a lifetime ago that Derek and I were campaigning for DNC in Santa Monica. Having had a little lunch with Dallas and Carolyn Fowler, and then we came over to the big auditorium and saw everybody. So it was a different time.
Somehow it was this year, believe it or not.
It was this year. I know. I was looking at that, or my plane ticket from February 12th going to LA County Central Committee, going up and down in a day. Little did we know what was going to be coming. So a couple of things. One, and we talked about this last week at the Women's Caucus. We deliberately chose to be the first meeting of the executive board because we wanted to celebrate our wins. We do have, as the Assembly member mentioned, we'll call her Sydney tonight, just be casual. But respectfully, as she mentioned, we have the Speaker of the House. We have the Vice President of the United States. We have the President of the United States, Mello. Cup of Joe here. And that's really, really exciting. I have worked in Washington, D.C., and I have worked from California national campaigns when we had nothing. 2000, I was sitting in my office at HUD as a special counsel to the secretary. And I tweeted about this to Emily Murphy, the GSA lady who refuses to sign the paperwork. It's like, wait a second. You know what you have to do when your team is in limbo, but you pretty much know you lost? The first thing you have to do as a political appointee is you have to sign a letter of resignation effective January 20th. Now, at that point, at this point, 20 years ago, we thought, well, we might still win Florida. We didn't know, but you couldn't apply for other jobs because it looked like you were being disloyal. But at the same time, you had to help with transition, because if it didn't go our way, we would have to transition. That was our job. That was our oath of office, and we had to do it. And when you look at the number of people willing to suffer indignity and perhaps imprisonment for Donald Trump, it just never ends. So, I hope Emily does the right thing and follows the law. But, the more people that Trump fires for speaking truth, the more people who are then free and unemployed to go talk to Joe Biden. And thanks to the Affordable Care Act, they can go on the DC exchange and continue to get their health care. So if they think they're staying because they can't have a COBRA or something like that, no, they can actually get healthcare, decent healthcare in DC. So that's one thing that's happening. The other thing that's happening in Washington, DC right now is that it's the time for the budget. The budget is due. And again, this administration will not give the Biden administration information about the budget. You know what? So what? Nancy Pelosi has a budget committee. They've got information. Chuck Schumer's got a budget committee. They have information. They made fun of Joe Biden for being in government 47 years, but you know what? He learned a lot in 47 years about how to do things. So this will happen. And finally, to answer your last question, there's a couple of myths I want to debunk because I see these narratives at the national level, and I call up reporters and I say, you can't say that. I quote tweet the pollsters and knock them down. The New York Times exit polls. That means they go to the polls and they interview people at the polls and they say, how did you vote and why did you vote? Well, this year in COVID, you have to throw a lot of those exit polls out because that didn't include most Democrats. They said over 2/3 of Democrats voted from home and over 2/3 of Republicans voted in person. So that's the first thing to know about those polls. And Democrats who voted in person, because there were some Democrats who voted for Trump. There were some Democrats, let's face it, jealous, white women, jealous of Kamala. The Tom Bradley effect is real. We lived through it here in California when I was a teenager. And we knew that was, for candidates of color, that's an extra 5 points off the board that you have to go find somewhere else in some cases. So the exit polls didn't even measure military families, but other polling is doing that because he called them suckers and losers, put bounties on their heads, disregarded their service, took money from veterans programs and military families programs in order to fund his vanity wall. Let me count the ways. People remembered that. And that's why there was such a swings toward Joe Biden, who was a blue star dad, and everybody knew of the service of Beau Biden. He wasn't, he didn't have a vanity assignment. He was over there. In fact, at one point when the Trump administration was making fun of the Biden saying, oh, he wouldn't know Kosovo on the map. I said, well, actually, yes, he was. Here's a picture of the Biden family on the Beau Biden Bridge in Kosovo. How about that? So that was real. The other thing I want to say is, it is true. The voters said, give us help. It was a referendum on COVID. Some people were saying, I'm voting for Trump because I want everything back open and I want my life back. And Democrats were saying, and others, and fed up Republicans and independents, were voting for Biden and Harris to say, I want healing. I want community. I want my community back, but I don't want to do it at the risk of killing people that I love. And I think that we have to be really clear about, as some of the other speakers are referencing, these problems like homelessness are getting worse because of COVID, and we have to deal with that. But one thing we talked about a lot in the Women's Caucus was the mental wellness factor and how it's affecting our children, how it's affecting people who are already victims of assault or DV or have prior unhealed grief that they've been reliving largely alone. And so, being alone with your thoughts even with your good thoughts can be bad, but living alone with your grieving thoughts can be really, really difficult. So I think the vote was for health and healing. And finally, I just want to say to some of the pollsters have said, well, see, they didn't even poll Native Americans. They called them something else. So obviously we got to fix that. But also they said, well, if you look at the swing counties, Biden actually did worse than Hillary among the Black vote. So the Black vote wasn't that important margin of victory in these swing states with Kamala Harris. Well, you know what? What they didn't consider was the college campuses, and in some cases the HCBUs, which are full of Black students who are voting at home instead of voting on campus. So I think I would just challenge everybody, challenge the narratives that you see, make sure that the exit polling, whatever they're calling it, is inclusive, and make sure that, especially on something as important as what is the value Kamala Harris brought to the ticket, that it is clear those Black students voted. They just voted from home in another state or in another part of the state and not in those swing places. We lost some House seats because campuses were closed that we can try to get back in 2022. But to do that, let's win in Georgia, and let's make sure we keep pressuring Joe Biden to fulfill his desire to be a healer by being healers ourselves.
Very well put. Actually, my next question is kind of pertaining to what you were just talking about, which is, in politics, we've talked a lot about winning coalitions. We've heard all about the Obama coalition and even the Trump coalition, which delivered their win. So now looking at this election, and we understand the exit polling is a little weird because of the nature of this election. But what does the Biden coalition look like, and how is it different from Obama's coalition?
It has more white suburban people than Obama has. It has, I think it will end up having fewer percentage-wise, more raw numbers, but fewer percentages of younger people, because the vote by mail, even though the percentage of it was very high, the vote by mail piece, the naked ballots, the rejections, they were running something like 4-to-1 in Black, Indigenous, people of color communities. So if you look at the ballot curing that they tried to do, for example, in North Carolina and other states, they were finding that it was running 4 or 5-to-1. The rejects were new voters and voters in communities of color. So I think that the coalitions are probably similar, but we have to do a big separation of the supporters whose votes were suppressed versus the supporters whose votes were accepted. But it's quite clear that it's the Biden-Harris coalition, and youth were a bigger percentage of it, and seniors actually swung back a little, but white women, again, we don't know all the numbers, but white women appear to have done worse now than 4 years ago. So I think again, let's look at all the numbers before we see whose coalition is what.
Sure, yeah.
I think it's also important to, also be honest about this year and this election. Obama's coalition was fueled by younger folks, by folks who were trying to create a new vision of democracy and what government looked like. And also he had a coalition that was fueled by, a lot of Black Americans who were in this for the history, and white Americans who were allies, Asian, brown, who were allies in the civil rights movement, who said, I want to be part of history. Trump's coalition, quite frankly, was put together by, it was a group of folks who have felt left behind, who feel like whatever the country is that they came to or stole or are living in has turned into something else. And it was a coalition of supremacy and suppression. And, the Biden-Harris coalition really, if we're going to be honest, has been situational. It was a coalition of folks who were exhausted of autocratic rule. And regardless of our own sort of challenges with this democracy and our challenges with social justice in this country, it was really a coalition of Democrats, independents, Republicans who were just tired of this failed experiment that we've been living under with this current president. And so I think as Democrats and as club members, we have an obligation to figure out, how we want to fuse this coalition, how we want to keep and grow and solidify this coalition, because if we don't have a coalition, we will suffer during the course of these next 4 years. And we can't afford to have the Biden-Harris administration fail, because we cannot afford to give it up in 2024, So this is our opportunity to have our own sort of seances, kumbayas, interventions, so that we can get our act together for 2024. I have no doubt in my mind that that crazy person is figuring out, ways in which he can derail the administration, just like Mitch McConnell is trying to figure out ways that he can shore up his little slim majority in the Senate so that they can continue to do this strange rule that they have. So I'm really honest with myself about it was folks coming together saying enough is enough with Donald Trump, but we cannot sort of rest on our laurels and assume that because Biden-Harris won, that everything is all good. We are a fragile democracy, and we are fragile Democrats, and we can't afford to remain in that state because the fight has just begun.
Sure, yeah, definitely. I've been saying all along, this was just going to be the halftime point. We got the ball back, and now it's time to actually do the change, the progressive change. Taisha, did you want to weigh in on that at all?
I do want to say this. I really appreciate the fact that you thought to invite to African American women to speak and let our voices be heard. Derek has just been phenomenal with working with the Black Caucus for probably 5 or 6 years, if not longer now. And I really appreciate him. And I thank all of you for just listening and getting a better understanding of how it feels to know you are the backbone of the Democratic Party, but being overlooked continuously. In regards to Kamala and Biden in this new White House, I think it is going to be quite different. I think Kamala is going to be the one really running things. I think she's very capable, and that's why President-elect Biden chose her. I think that we all have to stay diligent and we have to continue the work that we did to get them in, because it's not over. And we all know that. So, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, so let me ask this question. Unfortunately, we also have to address the fact that Trump has not only not conceded, but he's dangerously telling his supporters that, in fact, he did win the election. He's alleging all sorts of crazy issues in different states. Famously, we heard one group saying count the vote, another group saying stop the count, in the same time. And then since the election, we've been seeing about a dozen lawsuits just being laughed out of the court saying, excuse me, there's no evidence, this is all hearsay. So, okay, it's fun, we're laughing at that kind of stuff, but the question is this all stuff we should simply just ignore and focus on what's next for Biden-Harris? Is there anything that we should be seriously watching in terms of the legal maneuvers or affecting the selection of state electors? Is that all just a wash? Or is there anything we really do need to be careful of there?
I want to speak to that.
Sure, yeah.
I think it's critical that we pay attention to everything 46-1 does, everything, because he's done things that we've never seen before from a president, and we probably will never see again. We cannot underestimate him. We cannot underestimate his followers. So we have to remain focused on all of his actions. I don't think we should give it as much attention as we were before, but we do need to stay focused and be prepared to file some lawsuits ourselves or do whatever's necessary to ensure that the transition is in a peaceful way.
Yeah, thanks. And Christine, were you going to speak up?
Mark Elias, Marcelias. Follow him on Twitter because he's doing updates on all of the legal stuff. We've been raising millions of dollars for years, knowing that this could happen. A couple of things. First of all, we don't cede any ground. Of course, you should count every vote. We believe that. We insist on that, and we have a lot of races that are that are won or lost by just a handful of votes. So of course we believe in counting every vote. We also believe in making sure that when the people who have counted the vote, the heroic poll workers, have done the work and those results are certified, that a judge stamps them and says, this is legit. We also know, and as Democrats, I think we're always looking for that referee to say that we're right. And, that referee doesn't exist. And even when there is, the Republicans are working the refs to say, well, you are, but there's another really point over here. And, maybe he has an argument. Rudy Giuliani, this is the guy that took on the mob. He's laughed out of court. It's embarrassing. I won't even get into that Four Seasons situation. But I would just say this. Follow Mark Elias, because a lot of people put a lot of money and resources into the work that he's doing. Look at what the strategy is in terms of, for example, in Michigan, when, this is why midterms matter, because we swept Michigan in 2018. You have a Democratic governor, a Democratic lieutenant governor, a Democratic attorney general, Democratic secretary of state. And the fact of the matter is that those elections really mattered. What happened in Michigan? They said, we're going to count everything but Detroit. Racist. They have a Black nominee for Senate on the Republican side, and they still didn't want to count Detroit. Like, and that guy was saying, well, I don't know, maybe it's right. I mean, talk about ridiculous and racist and awful, but the public sentiment was so strong that they reversed themselves. So yes, we should stay involved. Yes, we should stay engaged, because it was the public comment for the Wayne County counters that actually forced them to change their mind. And of course, the Secretary of State is like, no, you can't go to the legislature and have them come up with their own electors. That's actually not how the law works. So they want to throw it all to the House of Representatives and dare Nancy Pelosi not to accept the electors. Well, the fact of the matter is, if you're not certifying the election in a state, that means those House Republicans don't get seated either. So I don't know why they would want to do that. Because if they're going to call out fraud and say a state was fraudulent, then the state that was fraudulent means that the Republicans elected in that state shouldn't be seated either. So it's not going to happen, because there was a long time strategy built around this. I remember in 2017, Nancy Pelosi said, they may not concede the election of 2018 because a wave is actually a little drops of water, 100, 200, 300, 1,000 votes at a time that you could win or lose by. And everyone said, oh my God, why would you say that about Trump? Well, 3 years later, he's not conceding the election. So yes, we're going to count every vote. Don't lose that moral high ground. Follow Mark Elias, follow the comments of the members of Congress, because ultimately, if Giuliani wants to take this to the House of Representatives, the Speaker and her majority are waiting for him.
I just want to say that's not going to happen, because everybody is scared of Speaker Pelosi. I will also say,
including me.
Yes, everybody. And if you're not, you should be. I will also say that, what they're saying in court is very different from what they're saying in their press conferences, because if you say something bad in court, that is a felony. Perjury is real. So it is very interesting in terms of the court and the court of public opinion, how Giuliani and the rest of his cronies are actually portraying this. They are not saying in court that there is evidence of fraud. And that is why most of those lawsuits are getting thrown out. I want to reiterate what Christine said. This proves the importance of state elections, governors, AGs, Secretary of States, okay? Because those are the ones who have the sort of hold the keys to the voter purse strings and are able to manipulate, how democracy is laid out. I mean, case in point, Kemp and Stacey Abrams in Georgia, need I say more? I think it's also important to recognize that, caged animals are dangerous and mental illness is real. And that's what we're seeing play out with this man, Donald Trump. And we should be focused on what he's doing. And we should also be focused on what you're not hearing being said. Days before the election, I sat on a number of calls with representatives from across the country who were talking about these very scenarios. If he doesn't concede, what happens if it takes too long to count the votes? If we start entering into scenarios where people are using the word coup, how do we respond? What's the posturing that we have to begin to employ in order to push back? And so folks were at the ready. Community-based organizations and national advocacy agencies had been at the ready preparing for these very scenarios. And so I think it's actually very interesting that, in my mind, he's been contained. He has very few tools in his toolbox. Now, he certainly has the tools of distraction and chaos, which he is going to continue to use. But what I'm interested in is the things that we're not talking about. I'm concerned that he's going to figure out ways to fleece the Treasury. I'm concerned that he's figuring out ways to burn the files, and hide the stuff. I'm very interested in what happens when he leaves, and I'm hoping that people sue the daylights out of him and he moves from the White House to the courthouse to the jailhouse. And so my hope is that we also have a string of advocates working on that train that he can get on, because that's where he needs to be.
Definitely. Okay, let's look ahead a little bit. January comes around. We've got two runoffs set for January 5th. Democrats Jon Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock are running against the two senators most directly implicated in the COVID insider trading scandal, Perdue and Loeffler. Do you think we can pull off these two simultaneous upsets in Georgia, which is now a blue state? Let's get used to saying that. Georgia the blue state, and thus deliver control of the Senate? And what do we have to do between now and then to make it a reality?
This is Taisha, and I say, yes, we can. We can get it done. It is going to take all of us once again to be involved. I'm actually going to Georgia to help out with my union, SEIU. They're getting involved. And so it means that the work we were doing before November 3rd has to continue. Really, the folks that can't go, we need to be sending money to ensure that we get 2 seats, not 1. We want them both. And so just continuing to work hard to make this happen, it will make things a lot easier for our president-elect and vice president-elect once they are sworn in. So everyone pick up the phone, make calls, do whatever you can to help. It really will pay off for us.
Definitely. Anyone?
We do know that the Republicans are very concerned. You know, Lindsey Graham has thrown his weight behind these races and has put in his money, but we know that once the votes are going to get counted, you know, Biden, Harris, they will come out ahead. I certainly think that we can take it, but everyone is focused on this state and these races, Democrats and Republicans. You know, it is amazing how quickly technology changes. And it's also amazing how rapid innovations have been occurring with regards to making sure that people are getting out to vote, protecting them during a time of COVID, seeing who needs to be, you know, who needs to get their ballot, et cetera. Hey, people, stop it. I have a cat and a dog who want my attention at the same time. And so, you know, we in the Black Caucus are raising money to send the money down there. We've actually been talking about if it makes sense for us to go down there to be supportive of our colleagues and to lend any kind of support that they need. But I know that right now what they really need is money. And lots of phone banks are starting back up again. People are doing postcardings. People, as Taisha said, our unions took like literally probably 2 days of rest after the November election and are sending people back down there because these races are incredibly critical. You know, as you know, now that Kamala Harris is our vice president-elect, you know, we have an open US Senate seat, and that has caused a lot of excitement about who will fill that seat. But people are also talking about potential cabinet opportunities for many of our California, you know, delegation members. And, you know, we know that some of our more progressive candidates may have trouble getting confirmed into cabinet positions of their choice because the Senate is still controlled by these folks. And specifically, you know, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio have said, you know, that they are going to be hating on Congresswoman Karen Bass because of her stance, you know, on Cuba. And so we know how amazing she is. We know that she should have the opportunity to get appointed if that's what she desires. And so we have a responsibility to help make that happen by making sure that the Senate races in Georgia end up blue.
Amen.
Amen. Right. Okay. So one thing we have to be sure we avoid is a backlash midterms like we saw under the last several presidents. Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, all of them had like a backlash midterms where they lost a lot of seats. We have to make sure that we make gains in the House and Senate, not simply playing defense and possibly even losing the House, which would set up the Republicans to be able to win in 24. So what are the lessons that we need to take from this election in order to make sure that we're taking all the right steps in the next 2 years to make sure that we have a successful 2022?
Well, I think first of all, we have to keep, first you have to keep the local organizations in place. Actually, Speaker Pelosi has given over $12 million to Georgia, to Lucy McBath, to reelect her, to elect Congresswoman-elect Carolyn Bordeaux, and to elect my friend, Nikema Williams, who is the state chair of the Georgia Democratic Party and was a state senator and was selected by a community, as we do here, when there's a vacancy after John Lewis died. to serve in John Lewis's seat. And she was spending a ton of money to make sure, because she really wanted to make sure that John Lewis's district was the one that carried Biden over the top and into the presidency. So one of the things that's happened since then is that through the state party, not only just giving to the candidates directly and not only giving to groups like Black Voters Matter or Stacey Abrams' group Fair Fight and the coalition of groups working together there, but also through the state party, keeping those volunteer networks alive. So I think it's really important as a Democratic club that you ask your representatives to open their wallets and keep your activities funded and going. We have a lot to do with redistricting. It's different in different states. In some places it's a, it's a commission. In other places, the lines are drawn still by the legislature. Still other places are drawn by the legislature, but approved by the courts. Again, President Obama's organization, headed by Eric Holder, has been working on that for a very long time, 4 years to be exact. So they're ready. If you look at why we hold the House, in part it's because it was decisions by Nancy Pelosi to raise millions of dollars for mid-decade redistricting in Pennsylvania, Florida, and North Carolina, because that gave us a net gain of 10 seats. Now we lost 2 of the seats in Florida, but we picked up 2 in North Carolina, and we held the 4 in Pennsylvania. And then there was another here or there. Point is, it's very, very important that we do 3 things. 1, insist on the census count being done, and President Biden has committed to that. So, because you need to have an accurate count. Next, we have to make sure that we are active as local people to make sure that people stay interested and engaged, and they know what the Democratic Party is doing for them. And number 3, we make sure that when we're running candidates, that the candidates fit the district and that we are making the right choices there, because it will be very important to beat the tide of history. We'll be on a new map, and that will be significant, but we also have to make sure that, frankly, and I'm just going to say it, the racism that we saw against Kamala Harris is not going to go away, because that's who Donald Trump is, and he'll continue to try to stoke those flames. And so we are going to have to make sure that we back her up, and that she is given the full respect that all the other men get. You notice Nancy Pelosi gets criticized in ways that Mitch McConnell does not, that Kevin McCarthy does not, that even Chuck Schumer does not. And the same will be true of Kamala Harris. So we have to make sure that we have her back and show people that, as Taisha said, she's running things. She's there, she belongs, and she's making a positive difference in their life, because everyone knows that Joe was comfort food. Like, just get the restoration, right? Just recalibrate things. But Kamala is the future, and that's what we have to protect, our investment in the future.
Great, thank you. And Assembly Member, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'm just a few things. Listen to the data. The data will reveal, where to focus the data will reveal how voters feel. Most of the time, especially this year, people have been focused on healthcare, our public health infrastructure, education, jobs, health, and safety. So go in and start running this country like a boss and focusing on the issues that have been impacting people's minds and their pocketbooks. Absolutely agree, run candidates that fit the district. Also agree, we have to stop cannibalizing, our party. Last I checked, it is okay to talk about the Green New Deal. Last I checked, it's important to talk about renters' rights. Last I checked, it's important to talk about the environment and the fact that we're just imploding Mother Earth with our laziness and lack of attention to how we should be focusing on climate reduction. Last I checked, people actually do want affordable, accessible healthcare, possibly even free healthcare that everyone can access. So Medicare for all is not a bad thing. Affordability is not a bad thing. But we like to say, oh, we can't talk about those things. So maybe your narrative, maybe the wording changes based on the district, but at the end of the day, people who talked about those issues still won. So focus on your district, talk about the issues that matter to people. it is okay to be a progressive. It's not a dirty word. Listen to the data and come in swinging. There are a lot of things that this administration can tackle. Paris Accord, coronavirus pandemic playbook for recovery, healthcare, getting resources and funding into our states to help with our economic stimulus that many of us need. Easy, not easy, but things that can happen immediately that can get the ball rolling and the momentum rolling for the midterm elections.
Fantastic. And so now, since we're all California Democrats here, I want to ask a couple of questions about here back at home. First of all, especially to you, Assembly Member, what should we expect coming out of Sacramento this cycle? Because this past cycle, we saw a lot of really strong legislation fail to come together at the last minute. So what can we do to make sure that we get good bills passed in 21 and 22?
Well, if we're going to be honest, this legislative session was a hot mess. And at the end of the legislative session, with the Republicans having to be quarantined and voting remotely because folks were congregating and catching COVID, is not what we should be doing in Sacramento. As Mr. Bloom mentioned, it's going to be very different this year. The bill load, we've been told, will be less. Normally we get 50, you can introduce 50 bills in a legislative session, 2 years. That's going down to less than half. This previous session, we had constricted hearings where we were listening to all of the bills in one hearing. Normally you have a hearing every week, but it was because we had to disinfect the building. We had limited staff or using this technology, which is not so great. And so if we're going to be honest, we can expect more of those kinds of constrictions with regards to the process. Having said that, you don't need 50 bills. You just need a couple that are actually really effing good and meaningful and do something. So my, request is that advocates meet with your legislators and say, you don't need 50 mediocre bills. You need 2 kick-ass bills that actually do something. And this is what you should focus on. You should focus on climate disruption. You should focus on housing and homelessness. You should focus on holding cities accountable so that they, have higher goals to meet with regards to construction of affordable or non-market housing. We need to do something around single payer. You get with the people that you trust, that are willing to do the work, and say, how do we just focus on this one thing? Now that we have a 2-year cycle for senators, and well, for everyone, because we're starting a new 2-year cycle, those can get done. There's lots of work that can get done. California is hurting and it needs all hands on deck.
Thank you. And what do you think, Christine, from your opinion, as far as what we can do at the state level this year?
Well, I think a couple of things. First of all, let me just associate myself with the remarks of the previous speaker, because the Assemblywoman had it down. I would only just add the caveat. If her 2 kick-ass bills don't have the topic I want, she'll tell me, oh, well, Richard has the other 2 kick-ass bills you want. So convince, the 2 of them to work together, then you've got 4, right? And like that. So it doesn't mean you wouldn't ultimately get to 50 kick-ass bills. You might just have to do that with, a number of different legislators. And I think that that's really important. I'll say a couple of things. One, I continue to be worried about the mental wellness situation in California. We just got word from the San Francisco Unified School District that Bella's, her school wasn't even in the phase 1 or the phase 2, much less her class, her situation, which means she's not going to see the inside of a classroom until at least March. We're very lucky and privileged to be able to deal with that. My husband and I are both employed, and we can do, and we have, well, y'all know how technology plays a role in my life. So we are fortunate, but there are a lot of public school parents who just aren't. And I tell you, I firmly believe that of the 20,000 new votes that Donald Trump picked up in San Francisco this time versus 4 years ago, I think some of those were parents. Really pissed off about COVID and really pissed off about staying home and not having money and not having relief. So I think in terms of the state it's hard because in San Francisco, London Breed keeps trying. She gave money to the school district, but she doesn't control the school district. I know the same is true for the mayor of LA and the mayors of a lot of places. So I think one of the things that's going to happen is we're going to have to get really real about calibrating people's expectations. And if we're not, and if we're going to be home and our kids aren't going to school, you're going to need some sort of a UBI to go along with the fact that parents are going to be still part-time teachers. That's just a fact. Otherwise, you're going to be leaving tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of children behind, and that's just not fair. So I really think that what has to happen, what really needs to happen, is that we see this criminal neglect of filling in the discrepancy between public schools and private schools. And part of the reason that I sent my daughter to public schools, that I didn't have to be a tall building lawyer and never see her in order to be able to afford to send her to private school. I believe in the public system. I wanted her to go, and I wanted to be able to have time to engage with her. We have time, but we don't have those activities anymore. And I know that's true for a lot of families. So I would say, listen to the lament of the public school families and the teachers who want to be in the classrooms, and the special ed, especially the special ed teachers who are going back first, because this is a very scary time. So I hope that what we see is some innovations in education. We have the biggest technology companies in the world. They know how to deal with data. Hello, Zoom, you got so much money, and they should really be forced to give back, and they should really be forced to invest in the people who are using their technologies while they take our data, scrape it, mine it, and sell it. So that's what I think. Break up big tech, do something about public education, do something about public education wellness, and do some form of universal basic income. Those, to me, would go a long way to additives to expanding covered California and putting out a public option single payer.
I agree. There's a big agenda there we have for us. So Assembly member, please, if you could just do all of that, then that would be great. And then
Yes, in just 2 months, I think.
right, yeah, perfect. Okay, so the last question for me anyway, we can see if there's any if anyone has a question in the comments, go ahead and put it. But last question for me, what should Governor Newsom do when Senator Harris declares her vacancy? Do you have a preferred candidate or candidate profile that he should take under advisement?
Karen Bass, Barbara Lee, the California Legislative Black Caucus had a press conference basically saying we'd like to keep the seat black. You know, now in the state of California, we have no Black female senators. Our US senator, who is African-American, has now moved to become vice president, and our state senator, our only state senator, is now going to become the next member on the Board of Supervisors. So in about a month, or by January, we will have 0 Black female senators representing California. Exactly, Anastasia, exactly.
Well, hopefully we'll get one, and maybe we'll even get one in the state Senate too soon. We'll see about that.
Well, I was going to say that. I was going to say, Sydney, if you had any announcements you were looking at making, we're all ears. We won't tell
Funny
anyone.
enough, yeah, funny enough, I actually announced last week that I am running to fill the seat vacated by Senator Mitchell, because diversity in the Senate and maintaining it is important. But until that happens, we have 0.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to say what I told Gavin Newsom, because I communicated with him a couple of times. A couple of weeks before the election, I said, look, I'm going to re-up a column I wrote 12 years ago saying that I think you should have a caretaker in these positions, and then just let the public run for it. Ideally, he would ask the legislature for the power to do a special and have, so anyone could run now, and then you'd have the seat, and then they can stand for election for the full term. And I do appreciate that the lack of having, yes, Kamala Harris is the president of the Senate, so she's a senator, but that's different than being a day-to-day senator advocating for people in the Senate, as opposed to doing that in the White House and then coming over and presiding over the Senate for tiebreakers, which we hope will happen a lot in a 50-50 Senate, right? Because we're going to give to Georgia, but also it is not the same thing as having your day-to-day line senator in there day in, day out. I am concerned about a couple of things. And this was the other communication I had with the governor, which is I believe that some of the people who put their names forward from California to be in the cabinet, not Karen Bass and Barbara Lee, or be in the Senate, but some other people who put their names out there and other names that I have heard from the elected official community and from the government community are people who have issues with respect to Me Too. And as one who's been running the informal hotline for We Said Enough for the past 3 years, it was 3 years ago today that we went to the Women's Caucus, We Said Enough did, and challenged the party to pass our resolution to say, you got to change these procedures and break this pervasive culture of harassment, discrimination, bullying, and abuse. I would hope that it's a coalition of the decent, of people who put up their names for Senate or for constitutional office. If someone like Eleni Kounalakis goes into the administration, or somebody else has an opportunity. But we have to be really clear that we want people who treat people with the utmost respect and equity and inclusion in these jobs. And what we can't have, I think, right now is for either Gavin Newsom or Joe Biden to entertain the potential elevation of people who have a history of not taking these claims seriously or potentially minimizing them in some way. And so that has been where my focus has been, which is, if you're going to put your name forward, do your inventory and be real, and don't have the president or the governor take a risk because you didn't tell them something that could turn out to be very concerning for people. So it's not just for me to have a progressive voice. It's not just to have a diverse voice in the Senate or in the cabinet or other parts of the administration. It's also making sure that these are people who treat their staff well and treat people well, because I'm not going to give up on that just because someone has a close relationship to Joe Biden or just because somebody has a vast political network. I don't make a lot of friends saying that, but I'm going to say it anyway. That's what I think.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your thoughts there. Okay, so I think we'll wrap up there. Any final thoughts? Taisha was unfortunately had to go to another Zoom, I think, unless she's not still here, right? Yeah, she unfortunately had to go to another Zoom. So any closing thoughts?
I will say that there's also been some rumors and discussions that maybe Senator Feinstein might step down early, and I cannot confirm or deny, but I mean, we could see a series of musical chairs in this state for a very long minute. So I just suggest that people keep the powder dry.
That's right. And they all have to be filled, I think, with the same ethical standard. That is to say, make sure this person has treated people well, make sure that they've been forthcoming about, because we all have baggage and mistakes. And if you're going to do one as a caretaker, then they all have to be a caretaker. If you're going to do one, and have them stand for election, then you're all standing for election together. And remember 2 things. One, the anti-Newsom recall people just got till March to get their money and their signatures. Now they're $3 million behind, but you never know who might want to drop some money into something like that. We didn't think the Gray Davis recall was real until it manifested, right? So we have to be careful about that and understand that whoever gets these jobs, 1 or 2 Senate positions and any other statewide position, they're all running together in 2022. And every one of us who's running for party office or delegate or local office is running under that ticket as well. So I think that's why it has to have integrity and diversity. And whatever decision the governor makes, someone's not going to like it, but they should at least be able to respect it as having been one made with integrity and with the best interests of the people of the state of California in mind, not somebody going out. One of the things I told him and I put in my op-ed was that Pat Brown always used to talk about appointing judges, and he'd say, it gets you 99 enemies and 1 ingrate. Now, I hope the odds are better than that for Governor Newsom. And aren't we proud of Malcolm Jenkins, our newest Supreme Court Justice? Very exciting that history is made. First openly gay African-American justice of a state Supreme Court. So that's exciting. And that shows that you can make decisions that have diversity, talent, inclusion, all the same. But whatever they do, I think we as a party have to understand that these opportunities don't come along every day. Someone will likely challenge that person at the state convention, and we'll have to think as club members and activists of what we think about that and what we want, and hopefully conduct our challenges or our approach to the field in a way that keeps us unified and focused on winning in 2022 and on delivering for the people, because that's ultimately why we're here. So thanks again for having me. Thank you to some of you who supported me for DNC. I appreciate it. Hope y'all enjoyed the Women's Caucus and more to come.
Thank you, Christine. And Assembly Member, do you want to make any closing comments as well?
I just want to say, you know, my district doesn't cover Santa Monica, but I'm a fangirl of the activism that's in your city. And so thank you for the invitation. And also thank you for allowing my cat to roam in front of the Zoom. But it's always great to be invited to talk about what's going on in Sacramento and to listen to what's happening on the street. So I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you so much for both of you for being here. Let's have a round of applause, you know, for the great conversation we had today. And so I want to move on to another item that is before the club. And Amy, our recording secretary, if you can post that link in the chat to the letter that the club got. If not, I'll post it there myself. So I just posted that in the chat. Folks can take a look at it. The club received a letter from the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of our own club, and they've asked us to please consider making an endorsement in the election in the appointment process coming up. For somebody's got their team. Okay. Who had some hopes. It's you. Okay, there we go. Okay. So we received this letter from the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. You can take a look at the link, which I just put in the chat. And they have asked us to endorse a particular candidate at this meeting. And so we just wanted to take a moment to address this letter and make sure that everything is done in a fair process in accordance with our bylaws. We received the letter a week ago, but our bylaws require 10 days advance notice in order to have an endorsement vote. However, the bylaws also allow the president to call a special meeting of the club. And so to honor the request of the committee, I'm hereby calling a special meeting of the Santa Monica Democratic Club for the evening of Monday, December 21st. And the official business for the meeting will be brief. We will hear from any candidates seeking our endorsement for a few minutes each, followed by an official endorsement vote. So to be clear, you have to be a member in good standing to vote, but that also means that you have until this Saturday for new members to sign up if they want to vote in that endorsement. And if you sign up now, your membership is good all the way until the end of 2021. So after that vote is completed, then we're going to switch gears and go to our annual holiday party. I wish we could all be together to celebrate, but we'll have a good time here on Zoom, and we are going to do our annual charity toy drive. So we'll be figuring out a way to, we'll come around to you and pick up some toys so that we can get them delivered to the kids in need this year, like we've tended to do in the past. So now, first of all, now that I've called the meeting, is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Seconded by John Medlin. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay, and all opposed? Okay, not seeing any opposition here. Okay, great. So any abstentions? Okay, great. So the motion does pass and we'll have our meeting on the 21st. And I know that there was a board member who wanted to make a motion. Is Patricia here or Ed? I think they said they got knocked off of the call.
Ed isn't back.
There's Patricia.
And I keep going, you keep losing me. Yes, so I'm back and Ed had made the motion and Janine had seconded it among the executive board members, excluding several of you who've been recused. But the motion is to place on the agenda for the special meeting of the 21st, that we hear and consider endorsing candidates for the ADEM 50th, and that as soon as possible, the club announces so that it also has the 30-day notice that we need.
Great. Okay. Is there a
I
second?
second.
And that's the motion.
I second.
And it's been seconded, I guess. Okay, so now, or it's been seconded by the executive committee members. Is there now a second in the membership?
Yeah, right. I heard someone seconded. It sounded.
I
who it
did,
was.
but I'm on the board.
Well, that's
so I don't
okay.
know.
No, you're still a member. Okay, so motion made by Patricia and seconded
Okay.
by Peter, and this is to add the ADEM election consideration onto our special meeting. And so all those who are in favor of doing so, please raise your hand. Okay, and now all those who oppose. Okay, seeing none, so we will now, any abstentions there? Okay, no abstentions, so it passes unanimously. So now we can officially announce that this meeting on December 21st, we're going to first consider the vacancy for school board. Then
November 21st.
No, December 21st.
Okay.
You got to give it a month's notice. So
Okay.
everybody has until this Saturday. If you, and a lot of people here are members. If you're not a member, you can sign up and become a member between now and Saturday, and you'll be in good standing to vote at that meeting when we consider for
Okay.
the school board vacancy and also for now the ADEM consideration, which has now been added. And by the way, if anybody knows someone who's considering running for ADEM, who's not here right now, please let them know that we're doing this so that everybody can be considered. Okay, so with that said, we're going to come to an adjournment, and after that we can have some announcements. But I wanted to adjourn tonight in honor of 3 very important women who passed away since our last meeting. First and foremost, the legendary, notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and enough can't be said about her passing and the unfortunate filling of her seat with Amy Coney Barrett, but we can only hope to honor her legacy in the years to come, working toward a more just society. The other 2 women I want to mention, one was a great Democrat, the other one was not so much. First, Dolores Press, who's a former president of this club, former mayor of Santa Monica, the first rent control board chair in Santa Monica. She established the Commission on the Status of Women in the Farmers Market. In 1981, she was part of a change slate that won all 4 seats on council. She was also active at the LACDP. She was first appointed by Tom Hayden, and twice she was named Democrat of the Year. And they don't just give that Democrat of the Year to anybody, you know, you're talking about really good Democrats like me and Dami. So for her to get it twice, it must be pretty impressive. And the final woman I want to mention is my grandmother, who passed away last month. And I want to make sure to be clear, she was an outspoken Republican, and she and I argued on issue after issue when I was a teenager, forming my own political opinions. She never held her punches, and neither did I. When I was a teenager, first learning about politics, we fought about the Iraq War, whether it was a good idea or a bad idea. Then we had debates about Obamacare and global warming and all the hot issues of the day. And those conversations that I had helped me mold my opinions and turn me into the political activist that I am today. And she used to tell me, even though she was a strong Republican, that it was okay that I was a Democratic activist as long as I never became a bought and paid for politician like all the rest of them.
Good for her. Good for
And so
her.
hopefully I can
Good for you
honor
both.
that request of hers. And her husband, her widow, let me know after the election that she wanted to pass on the note after Biden won. Now you're really in trouble. So
I love it.
on that note, we'll officially adjourn. A few people asked to make some announcements or comments. So go ahead, we'll open up the floor, but that's the end of the formal meeting.
Okay.